Welcome to the New Bedford Lights chat. Tonight we have a special edition of the chat for the preliminary election in New Bedford, the at-large city councilor race. We had the first part yesterday, and as our guests yesterday, we had Sean Mulvey, Jane Burgo, Jennifer Arruda, and Ian Abreu. And tonight we have Scott Lima, James Roy, Devin Byrnes, and Naomi Carney, who was here and just disappeared, but I assume she's coming back. Welcome all. I just want to say before we started, we did invite candidates Ian Saunders, Carlos Mayato, and Brian Gomes. They have not responded to our invitation. And Chris Carter did respond, but he was working and he did not appear to make it to the candidates night on the Zoom last night. So we have who we have, and welcome all.
Thank you, Jack.
Nice to see everybody.
Okay. All right. So I've known you all. I think I don't know James as well as I know everybody else, but know James a little bit over the years. So I'm going to start off as I did last night, asking you to we've seen your websites and your bios, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what makes you tick. Why don't you start off, James, since you're the least well-known?
Thanks. Hopefully that'll change. I grew up in New Bedford. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm also a civics teacher and a labor and community organizer. And, my path to service, it wasn't easy. Like many in New Bedford, I grew up with instability and trauma. I lost both my parents when I was young. But, what made the difference in my life was the support I found in this community and the public goods that gave me a real foundation, like strong public schools, access to healthcare, and opportunity in the arts. That's why I've been organizing, bringing people together to protect these same supports and make them even stronger. I've organized neighbors to help clean up our beaches and our parks. I've stood with families fighting to protect our schools and built coalitions to end the MCAS graduation requirement and even expanded school funding and transit funding statewide. So folks who do know me know that I'm not just talking about change, but I really organize to make it happen.
Right.
We can stop there. You want to stop there?
Yeah, I try to keep the responses to a minute or two because we can cover more territory there. I'll just ask you, you've worked both as an activist and as a teacher. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a community organizer, I'm a labor organizer, and I'm an educator. Yeah.
All right. Well, when you say you're educator, where do you teach?
I teach in the Fall River Public Schools.
Okay.
I'm an 8th grade civics teacher.
8th grade. Oh,
8th grade.
Yeah, a real teacher. All right. Let's talk to Naomi, counselor. You've been on the council for a while now. How many terms, counselor? You're muted. You're muted, Naomi. Naomi, you're muted.
Yep. Yeah, I was trying to come off mute.
That's okay.
I'm on my phone. I apologize, but we have so many debates going on this evening. So anyways, I'm Naomi Carney. I grew up in New Bedford for the beginning of my life. I lived in Blue Meadows Projects. And then my family moved to Dartmouth, where I graduated from Dartmouth High School. Then when I became an adult, I moved back to New Bedford, and then I ended up by purchasing a house in New Bedford. Over that time, I did attend SMU, which is UMass Dartmouth, and got my bachelor's degree. I've always been involved in civic things. My parents have always been activists, and no matter what the cause was, they were out there. I've always been tailing with my mother. Back in the days with, I don't know if most people remember Dean Howard, who actually dragged us to do political things with him. We couldn't say no to Dean Howard. When he says it's time to go, we went. So I've always been on the road looking to help people, being involved in the community. I have been on the city council for over a decade. I think I've done a great job for my city. I do look at my votes with common sense. I do feel for the taxpayer. I am a taxpayer myself, so when the taxes go up, it hurts myself too. So I'm very, very fiscally responsible when it comes to that. I've also put some stuff in there. I know back when I first got in, I was the one that was in. Oh,
gonna
2 minutes. 2 minutes gone.
a little bit, Naomi, because we can get into the issues in a bit. This was
Oh,
a
okay. Yep. All right. Absolutely.
So
yeah, okay. So
I just want to
I've been
explain.
on for the last 10 years, and I'm hoping to serve some more. Thank you.
I just want to explain to the viewers that Naomi is in her car because she has another debate to go to tonight, and we appreciate her accommodating us both, as to the other candidates. And Naomi, I'll just say that you have been an active member of the Aquina tribe for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I served on the tribal council off and on for the past 30 years, and I've been very active in my tribe. I do serve on some committees there, and I'm still active with the tribe.
Okay. So next, let's go to Devin Byrnes. Devin, I know you're pretty darn well because I think I've eaten at your lunch spot for almost every day for the last, what, 15 years, 14 years?
Yeah. Yeah. And you look really healthy, Jack. So, I mean, hopefully we're doing something right,
I think I got to order more of the smalls than the bigs, but
yeah, you look like the poster boy for Destination Soup. So that's a good thing.
And then I go back to the early, but tell us about yourself, not me.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Devin Byrnes. I'm not from New Bedford originally. I grew up in Salem, Mass. I came down to the area originally. My brother went to UMass Dartmouth, who's a little older, and then I followed suit. I went to UMass for a couple of years and then started working in the restaurants. I lived on County Street for a number of years. Then sort of went in my 20s. I did some road trips and wound up going to New York City. Was also a musician, so sort of lived a little bit of a younger man's life. Met my beautiful wife in New York City. I was running kitchens in New York City, and then moved back in 2008. The space that was previously the Green Bean, what is now People's Press, was available, and I didn't really want to work for anybody else. I felt like I could do it, and so I took a chance on the space and opened it up on a shoestring budget, and have just grown it and grown it, grown it since then. So since moving to New Bedford, me and my wife have had 2 kids. We live in the West End. My wife's a school teacher in Fairhaven. My father's moved down here, and my in-laws have moved up from Philadelphia. So we're heavily invested into New Bedford and making it as great and as vibrant of a place as possible. Raising multi generations here, even though we're not originally from here. So it's my adopted home.
All right. And last but not least, we have Scott Lima, a former city councilor from Ward 5, and also known in the active in the real estate community and teaching. Tell us about yourself, Scott.
Sure. Well, Jack, thank you very much for having me. So again, yeah, my name is Scott Lima, and I live in the West End of New Bedford. That's where I'm talking to you from now. I was the Ward 5 city councilor for 3 terms, for a total of 6 years. I was really happy with that position for quite some time. Constituent services was something that I was very big on, and that was very satisfying. I'm a graduate of New Bedford High School, graduate of Providence College. I'm a teacher, 8th grade civics teacher at Keith Middle School in New Bedford. I've served on some boards of directors here in New Bedford. I served on the board of directors of the Waterfront Historic Area League for 2 years of a 3-year term. I had left the board when I joined the New Bedford City Council, so that there were no conflicts of interest. I've also been on the board of directors of the Cape Verdean Association in New Bedford, where we held the Hello Cape Verde Expo in 2011, bringing thousands of people to the city. I've also been active with the New Bedford Ocean Cluster. Currently, I'm on the Aquaculture Committee with the Ocean Cluster. I'm a father of a 16-year-old son, and just absolutely love New Bedford. I loved serving, and I'd like to serve again, this time citywide.
All right.
Thank you.
A great panel, a variety of interests. 2 8th grade teachers. I'm going to have to think of some questions about adolescence. I want to start off with Naomi. Recently, I think it was last week, the Attorney General found that the present New Bedford City Council had violated the open meeting law. One of the councilors had sent out a group email asking about the longevity pay issue and some recommendations she had want to go to that. I was disappointed in that because I felt that the council should know that you can't have more than a quorum. The state wants you to make your deliberations in the public so the public can know what the discussion is, not deals behind the scenes. What did you think of that, Naomi?
Well, it actually came as a massive text. That was it. It was a massive text with all the city councils on it. So, I mean, I wasn't paying much attention. I just saw the little bit of ranting and raving on the text, and I just was kind of a little taken back, and that was it. But it violated and it violated. So, you know, it is what it is. You can't. I mean, when you, I mean, I can't stop what comes in from somebody else. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It was generated by one counselor to all the counselors.
It was Councilor Morad, in case anybody wants
Correct.
to know, who I think is a good counselor, but I don't think she should have done that. What I want to ask Naomi is, for people who are wondering, did that kind of group text and coordinating the whole council all at once, does it happen very often?
No, actually, that's the first time I've seen everybody on one text. I wasn't looking at, usually, if somebody sends a text, whether it's we're going to, you know, reminding of an event or something, it's only you send it to 2 or 3, you know, people saying, hey, the event, don't forget such and such. It doesn't go as all the councils on it. So I didn't even realize that there was everybody on there until afterwards.
Okay. Devin, what'd you think about this story when you read it? Is it important that the council do the deliberations in public?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I believe that, you know, this is also some members of the council were having, you know, dinners and things like that in 2022, 2023. You know, I think that if there is a quorum and there's 7 of them there, then I think you're running into some issues. I mean, I think that it's fine to have personal relationships. Of course, that's going to happen when you're working together. But you know, the respect to the position and following protocol is more important. That supersedes that, and you should be mindful of that as a public servant. So, you know, I'm not sure to what extent this has been going on. I think, no, to some extent, it's not just a one-off. So I think that, yeah, it's a little disconcerting, and I think we need transparency in government. So that's what I think.
Very good. Scott, you were on the council for 6 years, as you said. Does this sort of thing happen when you were in the council?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at a lot of Facebook posts from the past, there were a lot of dinners that councils went to. I avoided them. The few that I did go to, I absolutely made sure that our legal counsel, David Garotowski, had advertised them. But the only ones that he advertised that I ever went to was the Christmas party, because it's the holidays, it's Christmas, it's advertised. But there were other parties that were advertised, and even though they were advertised, I didn't go because you're doing what you need to do by advertising it, but you're trying to buck the system. You're being slick. And I stayed away from those dinners because you're just not supposed to do it. You can advertise and get away with it, but you're not supposed to do it. But I did go to the Christmas dinners because they were advertised, but that's it.
What about the group emails? Does that happen more than once?
Not a ton. No, I mean, a few. Yeah, absolutely. A few, but I wouldn't say, a whole lot. No, but yeah, no, it has happened. Absolutely. I can tell you I never generated any.
Okay. James, what do you think? Is this overrated as a problem? Is it okay if the council, you know, tries to do a few deliberations in private, or should they all be in public?
I think we should follow the open meeting law, right? I am one of those guys who regularly check, you know, the meeting agendas for our school committee and our city council because I want to be prepared if I want to go make public comment or if I want to go to a meeting. I think informal gatherings or informal texts, they risk decisions being shaped, you know, outside the public eye. And if I were on the city council, I made sure that we're held accountable and our meetings are transparent.
All right. I want to move on to the issue of housing, which seems to be the biggest issue in the city right now. I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago, because New Bedford had always been much more affordable than the rest of the state, particularly Greater Boston. And all of a sudden, the rents and even the housing prices began to skyrocket in New Bedford. And now we have a situation where the estimates are that there are 4,000 people looking for affordable housing in the city. We have made some great starts in the past year or so. Downtown has a bunch of things that are government supported, which I don't know if that money is going to stay around, but it's still only a few hundred. I want to ask people what their personal housing situation, and full disclosure, I own a small house, so that's my perspective. But what they think the extent of the problem is, and how we can address it more quickly than we are. Let me start with Scott. What about housing in the city?
Sure, housing in the city. Well, first of all, I think that a lot of councils will come on and say what they're going to do about housing. Look, it starts with the mayor's office. It starts with the Office of Housing and Community Development. We have a strong mayor type government, and that's where it starts. So I think it behooves anyone that's going to be on the city council to make sure that they're working with the mayor, that they're in contact with the Office of Housing and Community Development with regard to developing housing. Other than that, we need to be very, very friendly with developers. Making sure that developers want to come to New Bedford, they want to build in New Bedford. A lot say that they don't want to do it because of the permitting process. There is a lack of land that's available, but there are other parcels that are available. So yes, we have I live in a family home in New Bedford in the West End. But yeah, we do have a problem, and we need to look at ways of developing housing. I think we need to look at the developers. You want private development. You don't want government to develop housing. You want private developers to develop housing, and we need to make it so that developers want to come here, and we want to make it so that they can go through a permitting process so they can get housing built.
James, do you have any ideas about how we can speed up the housing construction process, or maybe do some things with controlling rents, tax breaks, whatever? Have you any ideas of how to more quickly address the housing crisis?
I I grew up in public housing. I later struggled with housing instability as a tenant, and I only recently navigated the long, uncertain road to homeownership. Everybody deserves a safe and stable home. Everybody in New Bedford. I think that the city can play a part in that. We could change our zoning laws, right, to allow for higher density. We could support ethical local developers. We could continue to empower borrowers through strong home buyer programs and programs to help support new borrowers increase their credit score. We could protect renters and the unhoused from discrimination and protect working families from being priced out of our community. I'll fight for policies that make housing affordable and enable our lifelong residents in New Bedford, able to stay in New Bedford. I think that, that's it. I'll close there.
Okay. Naomi, the issue of housing came before you when you were on the council. Councilor Burgo proposed a rent stabilization proposal. There was much debate over whether that was rent control or rent stabilization. He said that there were some exceptions that protected small landlords, that was aimed at more of the big people and controlled over time. Any ideas about how we can a little more quickly?
Well, we have been talking about housing in council for quite some time now. We have a couple of committees that address that. I just want to say that Josh Ambrose is doing a phenomenal job with identifying places where we can do housing and working with the developers that are coming in. Former Councilman Lima says, it's a lot to do with the mayor's office too. We have a lot of properties that are city properties that we are trying to get back on the tax rolls. Right now, we've had a developer that has been and is not going after any tax credits or nothing, just putting it on the market and paying taxes for, that has been held up for literally a year. We approved their sale of it last year, and it's been a year on two fire station on Brock Avenue. I think that's 9, and Fire Station 11 on Kempton Street. Those two developments have not moved. There's been money invested. There's a lot of red tape. We have to go through the solicitor's office. You have a Taylor School and all that property behind there for housing. You've got also the old Kempton School with all the property behind there for housing. And we just have to move on it. It is right. It's you got to work with the mayor's office. Things are being held up in the solicitor's office with purchase and sales and writing up these documents. Like I said, it's been a year for two of them trying to get this housing done. We have a lot of city properties. We've got a lot of empty properties where we're looking at Josh's office is pinpointing vacant properties and trying to find out what these people are doing with these vacant properties in New Bedford to see if they want to redevelop and what was going on. So, you know, the housing market, and when you had with the rent stabilization and the rent controls, I attended the landlord meetings. People don't realize that a lot of the people that came into the city to buy the houses, the 3 families, whatever, we're buying them at phenomenal amounts of money. It's these people that came in, these LLCs that are in control of 20 units, are the ones that ousted a lot of the people in New Bedford out,
How about
which
this?
was absolutely crazy.
Could we just get rid of the regulations for like maybe a year or two, you know, and say, build what you want, you know, come to the
I don't think, yeah, no, we really have to stick to our zoning. I mean, I don't say you can build what you want. You did have that, you know, the government did, Massachusetts did pass, you know, the additions that you can put, what is it, the ULA, the additions to the houses. So that was passed. So people can actually add on, put family members in there or rent out their garages. So that was passed. So if people wanted to invest in that and rent out their own property, they can do that with the new law from Massachusetts.
All right.
So, I
Devin.
mean, there's a lot of avenues, but without additional housing, we cannot keep the market down until we put more housing in stock.
I'm gonna move on. Devin, what are your thoughts about how we could speed it up?
Yeah. So, well, first, your first part of the question is, me and my wife, we own our home, and we were able to do that through when her grandmother passed. We were able to get a little bit of money, and we were fortunate enough to that was able to help us with the down payment. So I really feel for people who who are struggling now. That was an opportunity that came to us. I know and realize that everyone doesn't get that opportunity, and we were also bought a number of years ago where like you said, the market was much lower. So I think what we're seeing is several parts to it. I think one was there's some speculation about the train when it was coming in for the last couple of years. That was happening, sort of the post-COVID boom, and then also Naomi, Miss Carney talked about this a little bit, but also what I feel strongly about is some sort of some of these big conglomerates who are gobbling up housing stock. And I would love to see us try to put some, ordinances or whatever is sort of legally possible to slow that from occurring. But in terms of getting people into affordable homes, I mean, it's a multifaceted approach. I think that for housing, because like you said, I mean, 4,000 is a big number. On Union Street alone, there's been 150 units or something built. So that's a start. But I think we are a little bit behind the 8 ball. I went out and I approached Jordan Latham, the vacant property manager, and as Councilor Carney referenced, they are trying to get some of the more vacant city properties on back up and operational and reutilizing some of these spaces. Also, the ADUs I think is a positive thing for in-law apartments and things like that. But it's going to take a multifaceted approach. Also, the zoning, like was mentioned by former Councilor Lima. We need the zoning laws loosened up to allow smaller lots to be built on for tiny homes or whatever. Certain lots that maybe aren't perfect to build a house on, but I think we need to really think creatively, and it's going to take a lot of different minds working on it.
Okay, so just very quickly, because I want to get a sense of where you are at philosophically, a show of hands, how many folks would support some form of rent stabilization, not rent control, but rent stabilization? Just raise your hand if you would support that, and don't raise your hand if you wouldn't. Okay, So we have one hand raised, one
Yes.
hand taken, two hands kind of shaking. Okay, one hand down. All right, thank you. Let's move on.
I don't need to be fresh. It really depends on what that looks like, Jack. For sort of the rent control. I know you're not saying that, but rent control, I'm not a fan of. It seems like it definitely stifles the market and stifles, investment and things like that. So,
Okay, so I meant this to be a quick question. So given that you talked
sure.
about it, I'm going to have to give everybody a chance. Scott, you want to say?
Yeah, you'll scare away private developers. You'll scare them away. They'll go someplace else, and there goes your revenue growth.
Okay, James.
Oh no, I think my hand said enough.
Okay,
very good. Naomi.
Yes. I'm with former council Lima too. It depends what it looks like. It's not something that you can just say go ahead and do. It depends what it looked like. And by the way, I didn't answer that first question. I do own my own home. I did purchase it over 35 years ago, and I did the first time home buyers when I bought my home, and I only had to pay, I think I put I don't know, 2%, something crazy like that down. And those programs still exist for first time home buyers, just so people know.
I know you well enough, Naomi, to know that it's been a struggle sometimes. And so.
Absolutely. It's always been, it's as a single mom raising two kids, it's been a real struggle over the years.
A lot of it.
Absolutely.
I apologize if it seems like I'm cutting off people sometimes. I don't mean to I just know that I've done enough of these things that if we don't keep moving with keeping things to 2 or 3 minute answers, that we won't get many topics in. So that's my apology, and I hope it's not experienced as rude. I don't mean to be. Next question. So we have folks here from a variety of backgrounds tonight. We have 2 teachers, someone who's worked in social services, Naomi, and law enforcement type things, businessman, Devin, variety of backgrounds. But how do you balance your own background, your own interests, whether it's education, business interests, union interests, law enforcement? How do you balance your own particular interest versus the community as a whole, the community's interest? Sometimes, it's tense. You have education versus taxes. You have business versus I don't know, prices or whatever. How do you balance those 2 interests? Let's start with James.
I was thinking about this today. I actually was teaching my kids about this today. We were doing a lesson on Dolores Huerta and the work that she did in the 70s in California with the United Farm Workers. And while I was teaching, I was obviously thinking about tonight and thinking about some of the questions that I might receive. And thankfully, I teach about the stuff that, we're going to talk about right now. But I told them that, unions, like you mentioned, Jack, they don't always, it's not always about just the union members. We fight for the common good, right? And like look at what the MTA has done with the Fair Share Amendment. We secured billions of dollars a year more for schools and roads, and that just doesn't affect union members. It affects everyone in the state. And so I think that my union work isn't just for the members in the building that I work with or the members in the locals across the state. It's really for everyone. And I think I'll end there.
Okay, I'm going to go to Devin next, but I just have a text coming in from Councilor Ian Abreu. Somebody said that in 2022 there were council dinners. He was council president in 2022, he says, and he never initiated council dinners. The only councilor I know who did that was Councilor Morad, and there were lunches, I thought. But Councilor Abreu wanted me to. Naomi, did you want to say something?
No, I said they were dinners, We went to, everybody picked, it was ward councilors and at-larges get to pick all over the city. And it was publicized. It went out to everybody know that we were going to have dinner and what time we're having dinner. So we followed the open meeting law when that happened.
Okay, I think that in the beginning, my impression was that they didn't, and they did halfway through, but I could be wrong.
Nope, right from the beginning.
No, Jack, you're right. You're right, Jack. Jack, you're right. They weren't in the beginning, and when there was scrutiny, then they were advertised. You're absolutely right. They were not in the beginning.
I remember them all being advertised.
That's why it became an issue,
Okay,
because
so
they weren't being advertised, and then they became advertised.
we're not going to
You're
be able to.
absolutely right, Jack.
We're not going to be able to adjudicate that in real time, so I'll try to do some research during the weekend and go back to it later. Devin, how do you balance community interest versus your own special interest, in your case, business?
So I think that I've already done that in a large part with my business. I think that I'm described as a businessman, and it's sort of like we're all not these sort of cartoon characters, right? We're multifaceted individuals. So I think with Destination Soups, what I've really tried to do since the beginning is try to have a social component to it, a community component to it. And I think that that's why we've been successful to a large part, and that's why we've been adopted by the community. And that's why I think we have a great reputation. And this is not just for marketing. This is because I care about New Bedford and I wanted to have it be a great place. Originally, the vision for what it was going to be more of like a community space, but the space has never allowed that. So right from the beginning, I used to have live music and I used to have, different events. And, so I guess to answer your question is you need to get input from the community. You need to voice what you think the community, how you can benefit the community, how you can be a gift, you can use your gifts towards the community. And then the people decide. Ultimately, that's the answer, right? I mean, if you don't have things to offer and people don't think that you can add some value to New Bedford, then you probably won't get elected or won't stay in. Go ahead.
A good example of this would be we have a split tax rate in New Bedford where we have the residential tax rate and the commercial and industrial tax rates, and the councilors have to decide every year how much they'll shift which way. And as a business person, you might think, well, I don't want them to shift it my way, but representing residents, you might have to consider the residents don't want to shift it their way too. So
fair enough. That might be more of a complex issue. I know that we did have the 8th highest commercial rate in the Commonwealth, and as a small business, that does kind of crush you. But I think it's balancing, right? I mean, we're all taxpayers. I'm twofold, both on the commercial and the residential. So maybe I'll give myself a break on one side and get crushed.
You'll be called almost every year. They shift one way or another, and you'll be called upon to do that vote. Right. Naomi, what do you think? How do you balance, the interest of your own special interest? I'm gonna say something with the tribe or maybe law enforcement.
So when I first got on tribal council, I was actually 18.
Whoops, your audio dropped out there.
Tribes are a government-to-government relationship, and I had a great opportunity at the time to work hand in hand with the federal government. As you know, federal government supersedes state government. So I got a lot of learning with the feds, how to maneuver going down to Washington, D.C. Every year and talking with a representative and try to put policy together with the tribe. Then I sat on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club for over 30, I think it was 34 years. I sat on the Boys Club where we were out in the community all the time and, working with the kids. I also was a laborer. I worked for Bucktree Buildings Company, and I was a laborer on building the Zeitarian parking garage. I've been in sales. I was in sales at Serve and Hook. If people remember that, it was a one-stop building supply center. Well, I was out on the road and, was able to see the business and see the building and watch when the building fell out. And then I was with the sheriff's department doing community service for 18 plus years in all communities, helping out schools and knowing the benefits of saving the money to schools and to nonprofits because the money just wasn't there, and it was such a great help for the labor that was there. And I was able to see what we saved the schools and the communities because I would do a spreadsheet of the prevailing wages, and we saved communities millions of dollars. So I saw firsthand how the struggle was there. So, I mean, I've been in all facets of my life, dealing with all kinds of community issues, federal issues, governmental issues, labor, being out there working, getting up in the morning. And, and right now I'm working at a school. So this is my third year as a paraprofessional at vocational school working in criminal justice, work with the students. So I got high school students, that I'm working with now. So I have a different perspective on the school system also. So I've had my hands in just about everything over my life. And every single one of the things that I've touched, even with my parents, the way they brought us up, led me into my civic duty and what I'm doing today. And believe me, I love helping out my community, and I like what I'm doing, and I will always be there to help out anything civically.
I just got to ask you all to try to wrap it up when I
And I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And that's probably why
No, you can't hear me?
Yes, I can.
God.
But you can't hear me? All right, Dave.
Can we move on?
Yeah. Dave, I don't know what the problem is there, but maybe we can work it out. Scott, maybe in your case, this balancing of two different interests might happen
Sure.
with teaching or real estate, both businesses you've been in.
Yeah, well, let me talk about a few different things. First of all, I mean, the question that you asked, I mean, it's pretty easy to answer that. If you have good personal values and you have good community values, and I think you asked Jack about how you balance things. Specifically, when you're voting, you vote your conscience, you vote with your constituents. So I'm answering your question in the context of being a city councilor. When I was on the council, if I'm reelected to the council. So again, if you have good personal values, good community values, you should be able to vote your conscience because you have good values, and you vote with your constituents. So there's really no competing interest there. Over and above that, again, I'm a school teacher. I'm an 8th grade civics teacher. I passed all the exams that you need to get in there. This is something that I wanted to do. So I'm working with kids now. And again, my community work in the past, when I lived in Boston, I was on the board of directors of the Boston Center for the Arts for 4 or 5 years. I think it was 5. I lived in the South End of Boston. I was involved in that. I got involved in that through the Cape Verdean consulate in Boston. And then when I moved to New Bedford, I came back in 2004. Again, I was on the board of WHALE, Waterfront Historic Area League, the Cape Verdean Association in New Bedford. I served on their board. And right now I'm on the aquaculture committee for the New Bedford Ocean Cluster. And also, the last thing I'll say very, very quickly, my son is a volunteer with the Buzzards Bay Coalition. He's what's called a Bay Watcher, and Bay Watchers go out and they do tests on the water, salinity, dissolved oxygen. So I'm teaching my son good community values. And he tests water on the Acushnet River for the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
Wonderful. Naomi, how you doing? Can you hear us? No, you're muted. You're muted, Naomi. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. A phone call came in and it knocked me completely off. I couldn't hear you, and
I understand.
Music coming on my phone. It was crazy.
It happens, but you're back, and that's all we need to know. So very good.
Did you hear me before? You got to hear me though, right?
I hear you. You couldn't hear me, but we could hear you.
Okay, excellent.
So you got your answer. Let's move on to the school budget. The council has a role, in passing the school budget. Some might say that the school is about 65% of the budget in New Bedford. Some might say it's the most critical thing we do, educating the next generation. But New Bedford has had a hard time funding over the minimum net school limit that the state requires. There are good reasons for that. New Bedford does not have a big tax base now because the mills have left and it just doesn't have the taxes that it once did. What would be your philosophy in terms of the school system and how much we can devote to it? Can we get it above net school spending, or is it just something we have to wait until we have a better tax base? Devin?
Yeah, well, I think that we have to try to build the tax base as best we can with new investment and more business opportunities. I think that that's obviously, two ways to address it is to spend less or to bring more in, right? So we have to try to come up with creative ways to try to bring more in. So yeah, I mean, I believe strongly in education. I believe strongly that that's the way of the future and that we shouldn't shortchange our kids. So I'd be an advocate for funding the schools fully. Beyond that, beyond meeting net spending, I mean, obviously we're talking about, I know the budget changes every year, but I think that definitely we need to do our best to try to fund the schools.
Yeah, I mean, the state requires us to fund it fully, and it penalizes us in terms of aid if we don't. But the suburbs all fund it beyond the minimum because they can afford to, and that's why people often move to the suburbs, because they feel that the quality of the school system is better. I'm not saying that it always is. New Bedford has a lot of programs, particularly at the high school level, that suburbs can't do. But my question was aimed at: is there a way to put more money into education the way the suburbs do? Scott, you're a teacher. What do you think?
Yeah, Jack, you asked a specific question. You asked, can we wait? That's what you asked, and the answer is no. We cannot wait. We can't wait. What we have to do is we have to fully fund the schools. If you don't do that, your educators are going to leave. They're going to go other places where schools are being fully funded. School budget should not be politicized. I think we saw a little of that going on recently. Politicization of the school budget, looking for face time, I think, in front of the media. I think that was unwise, but we can't wait. Next to public safety, or in parallel to public safety, I would probably say that our schools are one of the most important budget items that we need to fully fund. And I'm certainly in support of meeting net school spending requirements. Can we exceed it at this point? I don't know. Maybe if we get more state aid coming in for other things, then maybe we can. If we get more federal grants for other things that need to be done in the city, maybe we can. Increasing our tax base is important. That's not going to happen overnight. But if you asked a specific question, the specific answer is that we cannot wait.
Okay, James.
Yeah, well, don't cut the schools. Not even $1, right? I think I was really disheartened when the school budget was cut this year. Partly because most of the money isn't coming from our tax base. It's coming from state aid that educators like myself fought so hard to bring into New Bedford, educators and our state representatives. So if we can't fund the school budget past net school spending without growing our tax base, without doing all the things we need to grow our tax base, like supporting small businesses, like attracting new businesses, like investing in our neighborhoods, then we need to lobby our legislators. We need to organize. We need to do things like fix the Chapter 70 glitch, which is a mess, and cities and towns, suburbs alike, aren't getting the Chapter 70 money that we deserve because there's a cap at 4.5% inflation. And these monies were the monies that, let me step back for a second. Inflation's been outrageous, and it's way more than 4.5%. So we're losing money in cities, in towns like New Bedford. So if we want to bring more money into the city, we need to start advocating at the state level.
So you would be inclined to go a little bit above net school spending.
Correct.
Okay. Naomi, you've had to deal with this net school spending issue for a number of years in the council.
Yes. No, I believe in that we're funding the net school spending. The reason why it was held up this year, because we actually do not get our final numbers for the school department until July. That's when the numbers come in. So in June, when we're doing the budgets, we're putting the money into the school department, and if it's over, we can't get it back. Now, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in the school department.
You know, you look at superintendents and assistant superintendents and assistants to the assistants and the assistants to the assistants. Sometimes that gets redundant, and not only does it aggravate the teachers who are in that classroom, it aggravates a lot of us who people are complaining to. I want to see money go to our children to educate our children. I want to see the money back in the classrooms. I want to see the teachers get the pay that deserve. I want to see that funnel down to that. I want to see less of a top spending in the levels of superintendents and funnel that money back where it belongs to the kids and the teachers so they can teach properly. But net school spend, it is what it is. That's what we have to meet. And right now, we can't afford to go over net school spending. We're trying to cut the budget the best we can because the new counselors, the new people don't know what we get calls for constantly during tax season. We get calls all year round. As soon as those tax bills come out, every single counselor's getting calls from the people. But you realize that, we tell them that your taxes are what funds these things. They don't really care where the money's going. They just know that I'm paying more money out of my pocket. And that's their major concern. So we've got to be really fiscally responsible. You got to stick at that net school spending until we get some revenue into the city. I mean, the mayor's trying to put in that business park. We're trying to look at stuff. But until you get developers coming in here that are not taking all the tax HTIP money and whatever, that are not going to funnel the taxes, people that are just going to come in and build in this community, that's where we're going to establish our tax base. And that's what needs to go and grow. So we can either add to the schools.
Naomi, I think, I'm having a hard time bringing you in for a landing sometimes. I think we have a good idea of where everybody is. I want to ask another question that goes to the hard decisions that elected officials, city councils have to make. This involves taxes on the one hand versus health insurance for city employees on the other hand. Full 10% of the budget now goes to health insurance and for employees and pensioners, retired employees. The mayor 3 times during his 13 years in office has proposed that the city join the state plan, like many other communities have, where there are savings to be made or considered, but the union has less power to veto any agreement. The council has never considered that in the 13 years that the mayor has been in office. He says that along with the pensions for retired employees, a driving thing. It's not that people don't want to pay employees well and to help them out, paying for their health insurance, but those of us in the private sector know that we have to pay toward our health insurance, that we may not get the plan that we want all the time. When you're talking about controlling taxes, you have what really drives the budget, and the mayor says that these health insurance and pension costs are crowding out things like schools, police, fire, et cetera. So what should we do? How do we balance these two things? Let me start with James. James, you're on mute.
Yeah, I got you. You're asking me if I would vote to join the state's health insurance plan?
Yes. Is that something that city employees, and that includes school, police, fire, might have to contribute more, consider plans that maybe are not the very top plans in return for controlling taxes a little bit, or should we just pay the taxes and stop complaining about it?
Did the city unions bargain for their health insurance?
They do bargain, but unlike
and the city agrees every year, right? Listen, working people in this country and in this community are exploited. Nurses, educators, city workers, and many others face disrespect. They face low pay. They face unreasonable expectations and constant overwork. So unions are the way to fight back. If we're taking away, I heard you say last night, you think the unions have too much power? unions having the power is great. It's the only way we can fight back, right? Collective power gives workers the strength to stand up to exploitation and to demand fair treatment. So I wouldn't vote to join the state healthcare plan, not on the backs of our city workers.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. I was asking a question. Do you think the unions have too much power? Not stating the unions have too much power. And just to clarify, the way the law works now is that when the unions and the city administration come to an impasse in negotiations over their salaries, it goes to a neutral arbitrator who decides. But health insurance is different. Health insurance, it doesn't go to a neutral arbitrator, and that's what joining the state system would allow. Let's go to back to Naomi. You've dealt with this issue a lot.
Yes, and I voted no on every time it came before us. We've had proof that the savings that the mayor's brought down wasn't not necessarily the savings that was expected. The unions have brought to us, showed us that that they've negotiated some of their medical stuff, medical plans that were cheaper, that was saving. I forgot one year it was $1.5 million, but you didn't hear that from the mayor now, did you? And I will not put the health care of the city workers and the city at jeopardy. It's an absolutely not for me, because they don't get the pay that they deserve, but at least a decent healthcare plan, at least they can look forward to that. So no, I'm not willing to go with the 22A and 22B.
So then you'll accept the taxes and whatever taxes.
Right, but the thing is, it's not accepting the taxes, Jack, because they have shown the savings in these plans when they negotiate the health plans. The health plans are always negotiated. So when they've looked at this stuff, there's been a savings. It's not always been this major cost that the mayor leads you to believe. They have brought us proof that, look, we saved 1 point. It's cheaper this year than it was last year. So healthcare is always negotiated. So it's not a case that it's a big percentage. It is a big percentage of our budget, along with the school department. But those things are things that I feel we need to fund, and you don't want to play around with people's health. And I'm not going to play around with people's health. And we're not spending, healthcare goes up. But like I said, they have shown us that there have been savings in the healthcare from the different unions that approached us.
Okay. I think the mayor says a full 10% of the city budget now and going up. Devin?
Yeah. Well, my wife's a school teacher in Fairhaven, not in the city, but she is in Fairhaven. And this anecdotally, the insurance changed there, and we felt it. For basic, the coverage, what we are paying out of pocket went up a lot. I think the emergency visit went from 100 to 500, for basic routine things that you need to have done as you're getting older, like myself.
Yes,
I'm not that old.
You're a young man.
No, I'm saying, there's certain things you need to have done, I got exorbitant bills. So, I think that we need to take care of our people, the police, the fire, teachers, all DPI, all the city workers that need to have good health insurance. I know that it maybe is costly. I think that, down the road, I don't know. I mean, I think we need to see if we can get the tax base up a bit and see if we can get more revenue coming in. I think that long term, I have concerns about the viability of everything in terms of how expenses continue to climb. But for now, no, we have to hold the line. I think
many other communities with higher demographics than New Bedford have already joined the state system. And again, all it does is a neutral arbitrator comes in and decides when the city and the unions are at an impasse. Scott, you've had to vote on this too. What's your opinion?
Yeah, local control, Jack. I'm not willing to give up local control. You're absolutely right in what you're saying, is that there's a neutral arbitrator, but I'm just not willing to give up local control of this. These discussions need to happen honestly between the administration and the interested parties. And, you know, a lot of people in the city, a lot of people are not paid a lot of money. You know, I've seen the city budget, I've seen the salaries. Salaries, you know, here in the city, and this is throughout the country, but I'm speaking specifically about New Bedford because that's what we're talking about. The salaries of city employees certainly isn't keeping up with inflation. That's true for a lot of people, but some of the salaries that you see for people, especially people that are new, that may be laborers and so on. I mean, the salaries just, I don't know how people make it. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know how people make it. And if you're going to make their healthcare more expensive, you're going to, you know, good question, Jack. You know, are you willing for the tax? Yeah. Are you willing to see people suffer and just have to choose between medicine and food, medicine and daycare? There's going to be some type of effect on the other side, and I'm just not willing to see that. So I would like to keep local control.
Okay. So I want to just go back briefly, and let's keep the answers brief for this. This is a question that was sent in by a person identifying themselves as Angel back when we were talking about housing. For those who want to build more housing, where is the infrastructure to host cars and people? What about the big private investors who bid more than the regular people can? So this sort of gets at, you know, like any issue, there are two sides to it. You build housing, but there isn't that great public transportation, so people don't know where to put their cars. And when you build housing, you can also have private speculators come in and just build housing that isn't really going to help. It just floods the market with more unaffordable housing. So I would just want to run around the table and have everybody give maybe 2 or 3 sentences about Angel's concerns about the lack of cars and the lack of places for cars and infrastructure if we build more housing. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, you know, build up. I mean, when I mean up, build housing like we have downtown. I forget the name. Is it the Regency? The Regency that's across the street from the post office. You know, so you know maybe you know we have to build up. That's what they do in big cities. The reason you have skyscrapers is because of the lack of available land. So I think that's the solution. Now you're not going to do that in the middle of some neighborhoods, but there are probably areas that we can go ahead and do that. I wouldn't take away commercial space on the waterfront away from the fishing industry. I absolutely wouldn't do that. But you know, I'm sure that there are some places that we can build up as opposed to spreading out. You could put garages underneath for the residents. So, you know, I think there are ways around this problem. Yeah, and you know, listen, we live in a beautiful historic city, but I'm someone who's traveled the world a lot, and I got to tell you, I've been to a lot of European cities where they blend the old and the new. Cities that are much older than our cities that we have here, and they blend the old with the new. And you see that a lot in a lot of places, especially in Germany. They blend the old with the new, and that's something that we need to. I think we need to start thinking about.
Okay. Devin, you run a business downtown. We got a lot of housing going up in the downtown, but we have a couple of garages. But you know, parking can be a challenge, as you know. Is this a two-headed sword? Sided sword? Not two-headed. Not two-headed.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I am concerned about the parking down here. I think that all these units go up, and the city doesn't seem to have any sort of plan as to where people are going to park. We are still a car culture here. Most people rely on their vehicles to get around. We don't have a great mass transit system, so I think that it's a real concern. I agree with Mr. Lima about building up, and I think if I demonstrated here, you know, some of these buildings are 3 stories high. That means
We're getting some music coming in. Anybody
That's
know?
that's the clock behind me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Go ahead, Devin.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think we need to be mindful of parking. We need to be mindful of where people are going to put their cars, and yeah, I think that's definitely a component that needs to be addressed. And one last quick, I think the city will constantly sort of echo to us and echo to some of these apartments that, hey, we have these 2 underutilized parking garages. So, you know, there's plenty of parking for people to go and run in and get some food or whatever, but it's just unrealistic in the sense of someone comes home with groceries or someone wants to run in for a quick sandwich, and it's raining out, they have mobility issues, they have a small child. It's not really the answer.
Naomi?
Yes. Build up. That's the only thing we do. Parking in the city of New Bedford is horrendous. There is no place to park. I don't care where you're going now. There's just so many cars. Way back when you had 1 and 2 cars in family, but now you got 3 kids that are able to drive. You're talking about 5 cars on the street, especially if you don't have a driveway. So yeah, going up when new developers come in, we need to look at the zoning of putting parking garage underneath the new buildings that come up. So that's the only thing we can do at this point. Build up.
Okay. James?
I said before that we need to support local ethical builders, and I think what I meant by ethical is just not only fair labor practice and environmental responsibility, but like community accountability and respect for local needs. And so we need developers that understand what's happening in New Bedford and not folks that don't, right? As far as parking, I think we need to encourage other alternatives in the future. We need to support more public transit and bike lanes and things like that, because parking is an issue, and we need to hopefully get our residents less car dependent than they are right now. I think these are some of the ways that we can address the issues with housing and parking.
I wonder, I think character sometimes is a important issue to people. From what I know of you all have good character, but I think that there are things that we can talk about and disagree about. And some people in the city have asked me to ask some questions, so I'm going to go at that now, and I hope nobody takes offense.
Excuse me, Jack. Are you going to go way beyond 7? It's 7 o'clock now. It's supposed to be 6 to 7.
7:15. We
Huh?
added 15 minutes. 7:15 because of that's what we did for the pool last night, because we thought we had Chris Carter coming in. But if you have to leave, I can ask you the last question, and then you could leave if you want. How about that?
This is what's called a Spillane lightning round.
I like it.
So Naomi, you you were given your walking papers by the new sheriff after working for the old sheriff for a long time.
Yes.
I was never quite sure, except that he said he was revamping where he wanted to hire people. You're now in a lawsuit with him. What was that all about? Was there discrimination there, or were you just not doing a job that didn't need to be done? What's the truth?
I was doing all I can say is I was doing a bang up job at the sheriff's department. You can ask all the bazillions of people that we serviced in the community and all of Bristol County, from the schools, from you name it, superintendents that we took care of, you name it, churches, everything. So no, I did a bang up job. So I don't want to, it's not done yet. The court case isn't done. It's still in its stages. So we're going to let it stay in its stages.
Okay. James, you had referenced when you were younger, you had some substance abuse problems that you struggled with. You seem to have come through those very good and a productive member of society, but you haven't been specific about some of the things that happened then. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Specific about
Things that happened to you when you were in the throes of addiction?
Yeah, these are incredibly personal stories, Jack. And what I can tell you is I've worked incredibly hard to rebuild my life. I've earned a law degree. I've become a teacher, and I've built a family. And my past doesn't define who I am. And yeah, I'll have more to say, but I think that's what I'll say for now.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Devin, you and I have a little history involving your T-shirt. Uh, I'll give you a chance to talk about what that was about. I have no doubt that you do. If anybody who can't read that T-shirt, it says "I love trees." Right? Is that what it says?
I really love this, Jack.
I really love trees.
Really love them.
Okay, so tell us about that. That you and I our disagreement over that.
Sure. Well, first I will lead in with a story by saying that my wife and myself did plant a dogwood tree in our previous home before we moved to our current home. So I have a history. Essentially, the long and short of it is the Union Street improvement dragged on for a while. We were open throughout. There's pictures of us with no sidewalk, legit, like there's dirt outside, there's a backhoe 10 feet that way. I'm at the shop now. And it was really, really a challenging time for us. We got through it. You know, doing business downtown is not always easy. So that was one struggle we kind of got through. The city went through and they redid the sidewalks and they planted trees where they were without any sort of consulting of any sort of business or business planning, as far as I know, in terms of any of the merchants' input or residents' input that I know of. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying. And then shortly thereafter, the tree was maybe 10 foot to the left of our front door, I'd say. And I felt like it was going to be a real issue. It was kind of growing out. So I addressed some of the mayor's office. I asked them if they would remove the tree. It was a back and forth. It wasn't too long, and they agreed to take it out, and they took it out. And that's a tree. Jack Spillane is going to tell you a different story, but that's my tree story.
Okay, so
It's like the fish is this big.
My 2 cents is that I remember asking Devin if the tree could be pruned or a different kind of tree could be planted that wouldn't block his sign, and that you weren't interested in negotiating. But
May I just make one point on that real quick?
Yes.
So there's a city-owned bush if you look at my shop, it's to the left of the shop. And it's out there now. You'll see it tomorrow when you come in for lunch, I hope. So, but anyway, it was growing way over into the sidewalk. So that was not cut back by the city. And it's about probably 2 years from obstructing our sign from that direction. So the city, I'll say lots of things great about the city. One thing that's not typically great is maintaining things like trees, and I just didn't feel like that was a realistic thing, is that they were going to come and prune it every couple of years. It's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to touch a tree. So, which, by the way,
I'll just defend the interests of all of the community in having streetscapes that have trees on them and sidewalks that are more attractive for business and culture. Scott, let's talk to you a little bit. So there's been some criticism around town that you're not running a very active campaign, that there are no signs, that there have been a lot of events that you haven't been at, that you're sort of coasting on your name recognition and all. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, very simple. I'm a brand new civics teacher. I've spent between December and this past spring a lot of time studying for the exams to become a civics teacher. So I've been spending a lot of time doing that, and I'm just getting up and running. I'm a brand new teacher, and I care about my kids, and I want to make sure that I'm focused on them. If we'll see what happens here with the preliminary election, and then after that, I'll certainly pick things up. But this is my 5th time around, and so I know where to spend time, energy, and money. And again, right now, I am about 4 weeks into my new job. Never been a teacher. 8th grade is tough. It's a lot of work, and I'm totally dedicated to that right now. Absolutely, positively, totally dedicated to my students, and I'm dedicated to New Bedford Public Schools. So that's part of my community service, and we'll ramp up on the campaigning. But you have to. I always tell my son, you have to look where you're going to spend your energy and when you're going to do it. And so timing is everything.
Very good.
But I did do a very good job as a city councilor. I absolutely did. There's no doubt about that.
You elected 3 times.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all, including Naomi, who's left us so she can make the NAACP debate, in which I assume others are going to. This has been a great and I think informative session. I love these Zoom conversations. I admire all of you for putting yourself forward and taking my tough questions and pushing back on me. I just think this has been a great conversation. Before, we're a little bit early, we're at 7:09. So does anybody have any last point they want to make before we wrap up? I can give everybody about 2 minutes.
Sure.
Devin?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind people the primary is coming up, the preliminary is coming up 2 weeks, October 7th. So it's very important for people to get out and vote and to, to choose the change that they want to see and to let their voice be heard. And I really strongly appreciate any support, and I'd ask for your vote.
Scott?
Yeah, so again, Scott Lima. I was the Ward 5 City Councilor for 3 terms. Absolutely loved what I was doing. I was very big on constituent services. And, I'm running at large because the reason I didn't run for Ward 5 a 4th time around was that I wanted to do more throughout the city. I wanted to be a councilor at large. And so that's what I want to do. I really want to work for all of the people in the city, which you do as a ward councilor, but you also have boundaries around you. You need to pay attention to that ward. I want to pay attention to all 6 wards, from the far north end to the far south end. And I'm preparing myself. I have a budget book. This is fiscal. This is 24. It's not the newest one, but I'm refamiliarizing myself with the budget, exactly how the budget works. So I'm here doing my homework. So while I haven't been out there knocking on doors, I've been knocking on this book, and this book is where everything is.
Very good. Naomi, last words?
Yeah, so I just want to encourage everybody to get out and vote in the primary. I just want to let you know I do love being a city councilor. I've been here for over a decade. I think I do a great job in the community. I do answer my calls. I do a lot of constituent services. Yes, I like the council at large because I like citywide and looking at the big picture. But we have to still remember when it comes to the vote on the floor, whether you're a ward councilor or an at-large councilor, the floor is where you make the difference, and that's where your vote counts when you're out there on that floor, because that's where you're setting policies for the entire city, not just for your ward. So I encourage people to go out and vote in the primary, and please consider keeping me on. And I do appreciate all the support in the past, and thank you very much. Thank you, Jack, for putting on this forum, and thank you the rest of you. Good luck. Let's give it hell.
All right. James?
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming tonight. Thanks everybody for watching. Scott reminded me of what I love most about this campaign, and it's certainly not prepping for these things or it's actually knocking on the doors. It's so great to meet neighbors in the city and to learn about their dreams and to learn about their struggles. I studied government at UMass. I earned my law degree. I'm a civics teacher. I know how government works, but more importantly, I understand what New Bedford families are up against. And I know how to organize people across differences and around shared values. And that's the approach I'll bring to the city council. And I'm not going to just throw up my hands. I'm going to fight for you. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all. This has been Jack Spillane for the chat and the New Bedford Light. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack.